My name is Ike, born in 1999, which makes me 26 this year. If you had met me in the fall of 2022, you would have thought my life was on an incredibly smooth, wide-open road to success. I had a sales job with a decent salary and flexible hours at a thriving startup. I had a girlfriend of 4 years, Sarah, and we were planning to buy a house in the suburbs. My family life was harmonious. My parents were proud of me, and my sister, Jessica, and brother-in-law, Mark, were my mentors and friends in my career. Mark was one of the founders of the company I worked for. Back then, I thought the script for my life was written. Work hard, get promoted, get married, have kids, and live a stable, happy life like any other ordinary American middle-class family. I never imagined that beneath the smooth, polished surface of the ice, a silent crack had already formed. This crack wasn't born from poverty or despair. On the contrary, it came from a more hidden, more lethal poison, comfort, and boredom. My sales job, officially regional account manager, sounded impressive, but in reality, it was filled with vast stretches of empty time. Client maintenance didn't require constant follow-up, and developing new clients was fraught with uncertainty. Most of the time, I drove the company-issued Toyota Camry, shuttling between the city and the suburbs. After visiting one client, the next appointment might be 3 hours away. These 3 hours were my own free kingdom, and also the abyss that would later swallow me whole. What did I do with this time? At first, I listened to podcasts and audiobooks, feeling productive and ambitious. Then, it devolved into mindlessly scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, watching other people's exciting lives, feeling a faint ripple of something in my heart. Later still, I would just sit in the car, staring at the steering wheel, a sense of emptiness I couldn't name washing over me like a tide. I felt like my life was a pre-programmed conveyor belt, steady but utterly devoid of surprises. I craved some excitement, something that would make my heart race, some proof that I was smarter and luckier than others. It was then, in that damn angst-ridden void, that I saw the link to the Telegram group that would change my life forever. It was disguised as an online marketing and task distribution community, promising to earn extra income in your spare time. I thought, well, I'm idle anyway, so why not? I clicked to join. At that moment, I heard the crisp sound of ice cracking, but I mistook it for the prelude to my new life. Everything in the group seemed so professional and efficient. The admins posted task instructions, and members continuously uploaded screenshots of their completed tasks. Messages like "commission received," "thank you" platforms scrolled by, creating a buzzing, industrious atmosphere. My first task was to like 5 designated Instagram posts and follow the accounts. The commission was $5. It took me less than 2 minutes. I sent the screenshot to the admin, and almost instantly, my PayPal account received $5. The feeling was strange. It wasn't a salary from work, nor a return on investment. It was more like the secret thrill of discovering a loophole. I had created nothing, just moved my fingers, and I got money. It was a pure, unadulterated pleasure of getting something for nothing. For the next few days, I was hooked on these simple tasks, earning $20 or $30 a day. When I took Sarah out to dinner, I would proudly pay with this side cash and brag to her about the smart way I'd found to make money. Sarah just smiled and reminded me not to reveal too much personal information online. I thought she was being overly cautious. A week later, the admin posted an advanced task. It required downloading an app called Oasis of Luck and placing 3 bets, according to a mentor's instructions, to help them test the platform's transaction data. The commission for this task was a whopping $50. The high reward blinded me, and I downloaded the beautifully designed app without hesitation. The mentor contacted me via a private message on Telegram. His profile picture was of a friendly-looking middle-aged man. He guided me through registering an account and told me the company would first deposit $100 of test funds for me. Sure enough, my app account instantly showed a balance of $100. He told me to enter a game called Lightning Blackjack and instructed me, "First hand, bet $10 on the dealer." I did as he said. An animation flashed across the screen, and I won. He then said, "Second hand, bet $10 on the player." I won again. The third time was the same. After completing the 3 bets, my account balance was $130. "Task complete," the mentor said. "Please take a screenshot, and the $50 commission will be sent to you immediately." And just like that, another $50 landed in my PayPal. "By the way," the mentor added, "you can also withdraw the $30 you won in your account at any time. You just need to link your bank debit card." At first, I was hesitant. Linking a bank card seemed much more sensitive than receiving a PayPal transfer. I gave him a non-committal reply, thinking I'd just play through the $100 principal and then delete the app. That afternoon, with nothing to do in my car, I opened Oasis of Luck. I didn't follow any strategy, just bet randomly based on my gut feelings. I didn't even know all the rules of Blackjack. I just enjoyed the thrill of the cards being flipped. An hour later, my account balance had somehow turned into $450. My heart began to pound. This wasn't a virtual number. This was money that could become real cash. Only one thought remained in my mind: get it out. I didn't hesitate anymore. I quickly linked a backup debit card that I rarely used, which had only a few dozen dollars in it. I initiated a withdrawal request for $450. The next half hour was the longest wait of my life. I refreshed my banking app over and over, my palms sweating. I was both hopeful and terrified, hopeful that the money would actually arrive, yet vaguely feeling that this was all too easy, unsettlingly easy. Ding! A crisp notification sound from my phone. My banking app displayed, deposit, $450. In that instant, a flood of greed washed away the dam of my reason. All my doubts and caution vanished. I no longer thought it was a scam. Instead, I believed I had discovered a secret gold mine. I didn't uninstall Oasis of Luck. Instead, I moved its icon to the most prominent spot on my phone screen. Pandora's box had just been opened for me. The arrival of the Christmas holidays became the catalyst for my downfall. Friends returned home from all over, and our lives were filled with parties, alcohol, and card games. We often played Texas Hold'em in a friend's basement. The stakes were small, with wins and losses for a night usually ranging from a few dozen to $100, more for socializing and fun. One evening, I was late due to traffic, and the poker table was already full. I could only sit on the side, drinking a beer and watching them play. The mix of alcohol and boredom made my fingers feel a phantom itch, an intense urge to place a bet. On a whim, I pulled out my phone and opened Oasis of Luck. Just a few hands until their round is over, I told myself. I deposited $500. It was the first time I had used my own money, real money, in this virtual casino. I took a deep breath and entered the lightning blackjack table. Unlike the slow-paced Texas Hold'em with friends, online blackjack was incredibly fast, a new round every 30 or 40 seconds. Win or lose, it was decided in an instant. That immediate feedback sent a jolt like an electric current through my nerves. My luck was astonishing. Every hand I was dealt seemed blessed by God. The dealer kept busting, and I kept getting blackjacks. My bets slowly increased from $20 a hand to $50, then to $100. The noisy chatter from my friends at the poker table seemed to fade away. My entire world shrank to that small, virtual card table on my phone screen. I was snapped back to reality when someone tapped my shoulder and asked if I wanted to join the next game. Only then did I realize that my account balance had soared from $500 to over $3,000. I immediately declined my friend's invitation and made an excuse to go home early. Sitting in my car, I was trembling with excitement. I requested a withdrawal right away. When I saw the extra money in my bank account the next morning, I felt a power I had never known. I felt I had mastered some kind of code, a superpower that could easily crush traditional ways of accumulating wealth. After the holidays, I returned to work. But my heart had been left behind in that virtual casino. My flexible job now became my best cover. I would pull over on the side of the road and gamble for an hour between client visits. I would stare intently at my phone screen while munching on a sandwich during my lunch break. I even excused myself to go to the restroom during client meetings to play a few hands in a stall. My life was split in two. In front of Sarah, my family, and my colleagues, I was still the hard-working, reliable Ike. But when I was alone, I became a gambler with bloodshot eyes and a racing heart. I started lying. When Sarah asked why I was always staring at my phone, I said I was following up on client emails. When Mark asked in a work meeting why the data in my report was a bit rough, I said the market had been slow lately, and I was focusing my energy on developing new clients. The bets grew larger, and the swings of winning and losing became more violent. I could win $5,000 in an hour, a feeling like standing on top of the world. I would immediately withdraw the money and go to a luxury store to buy Sarah a bag she had been mentioning for a long time, or get myself a high-end suit. But more often I lost. After losing a few $1,000s, a state of madness known as going on tilt would take over my brain. I had only one thought: win it back. I would redeposit the money I had previously won, and even more, placing bigger bets, trying to win back all my losses in one go. This insane behavior led to my first financial crisis. In just 1 month, I not only lost all my previous winnings, but also an additional $40,000. This $40,000 was borrowed from online credit platforms that I could apply for with a single tap on my phone. They didn't require complicated reviews, just my social security number and bank information. Within minutes, loans of several thousand or even tens of thousands of dollars would be in my account. They were vipers, binding me tightly with their seemingly convenient venom. For the first time, I felt fear. The $40,000 debt was like a giant rock on my chest. But I hid everything from my family and Sarah. I told myself it was a temporary setback, that if I just got one chance, one good hand, I could win everything back, pay off the debt, and return to a normal life. I didn't know that when I had that thought, I was no longer betting on money. I was betting on my life. One day in March, we had a family dinner. At the table, my brother-in-law, Mark, excitedly announced that his company was launching a new project with excellent prospects, but it needed some extra startup capital. He had already invested most of it, but was still a little short. When the conversation turned to investing, my father, a hard-working mechanic, suddenly looked at me and said, "Ike, you've been working for a few years now. Have you thought about doing some investing yourself? Your mother and I have saved a little money over the years. Instead of letting it depreciate in the bank, we'd rather give it to you to start something." I froze. My mind raced, and a lie came out almost instinctively. "Yes, I've been looking at a commercial real estate project recommended by a friend. The return is said to be very stable." It was a complete fabrication. A gratified smile appeared on my father's face. He exchanged a look with my mother and then said to me, "We've discussed it, and we can support you with $50,000 to start. Consider it your initial investment capital. Whether you make or lose money, it's your own experience, but you have to take it seriously." That money, the $50,000 that carried my parents' life savings and earnest hopes, was handed to me. As I held that check, my palms were sweating. I felt a burning shame, but another louder, more evil voice roared in my head. "This is it. This is your only chance to win it all back. With this $50K, you can win back the $40K debt and still have $10K left over. No one will ever know, and everything can go back to how it was." That evil voice won. I didn't investigate any commercial real estate projects. The day after I got the money, I deposited the entire $50,000 in batches into my Oasis of Luck account. I told myself this wasn't misappropriation, just a short-term loan. I even made a seemingly rational plan for myself: win just $5,000 a day and then stop. In 10 days, I would make $50,000, not only paying back the principal, but also netting a $50,000 profit. However, the casino is the last place for plans. On the first day, I did win over $4,000. I forced myself to stop, but the thought of just one more win to round it up gnawed at my mind like an insect. The second day, I lost nearly $10,000. Panic seized me instantly. I completely abandoned my so-called plan and started frantically increasing my bets, trying to recoup my losses in a single day. It was a hellish period. I locked myself in my room or wandered through different parts of the city, my only action being to stare at my phone screen and place bets. I lost track of time, missed dates with Sarah, and forgot to return clients' calls. My world was reduced to winning and losing. That $50,000 melted away like ice under the hot sun. In less than 2 weeks, it was gone. My account balance hit zero. And in the real world, I was not only carrying $40,000 in online debt, but had also lost the $50,000 investment from my parents. Despair wrapped around me like a cold, tight net. In early April, the real commercial real estate investor, the father of the friend I had casually mentioned, a person I didn't even know, of course, never contacted me. But another investor, my father, started to gently ask how the project was going. I could only fend him off with lies. Still in the due diligence phase. The lawyers are reviewing the contracts. Each answer made me despise myself more. I had to find money, or everything would be exposed. I looked around for anything I could sell. Finally, my eyes fell on the keys to the Camry. That car was a symbol of my first job, proof of my independence, my companion on weekend trips with Sarah. But now, it was just a chip to be exchanged for gambling funds. I sold it quickly through a used car website for a price far below market value. I told my family and Sarah that the company was getting me a new car. The day the $80,000 plus came through, I felt no joy, only a numb resolve. I didn't use the money to fill any of the holes I had dug. Instead, like a madman who had lost everything, I threw it all back into that virtual casino. I told myself this was my last chance. Win, and I'm reborn. Lose, and I'm doomed forever. The result, of course, was the latter. That $80-something thousand disappeared even faster under even crazier bets. It was like a gust of wind that blew through my life, leaving nothing behind but a mess and a deeper despair. When I lost the last cent, I sat in the car that no longer belonged to me. I hadn't delivered it to the buyer yet, and felt an emptiness I had never experienced before. I had lost more than just a couple $100,000. I had lost my parents' trust, my integrity, and my future. With nowhere to turn, I called home. On the phone, I sobbed uncontrollably and confessed to my parents that I had lost the investment, squandering the $50,000. Of course, I didn't tell the whole truth. I packaged it as a tragic story of being deceived by a friend and making a poor judgment call. I hid the gambling, and I certainly hid the $40,000 in online loans and the $80,000 from selling the car. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, followed by my mother's suppressed sobs and my father's heavy sigh. That night, we had a family meeting. They were disappointed and angry, but in the end, they chose to believe my story and helped me cover the $50,000 whole. They told me that it's normal for young people to make mistakes, that the important thing is to learn from it, work hard, and start over. Like a pardoned sinner, I shed hypocritical tears. I thought this was the end, a chance to start fresh. But I was wrong. It was just the beginning of a deeper fall. Because the root of the cancer, the gambling addiction, and the debts I concealed were still lurking inside me, waiting for the next eruption. After my family bailed me out, I lived a brief period of calm. I didn't dare touch the app again. I went to work on time every day, trying hard to act like a reformed young man. Sarah was relieved to see me no longer glued to my phone, and our relationship seemed to be on the mend. But beneath the calm, a fierce undercurrent was raging. The interest on the $40,000 in online loans was snowballing, and collection emails and texts began to bombard my phone. I was like a cornered animal, terrified of my family or Sarah finding out. I needed money desperately to plug the hole I had dug myself. I tried to work harder, to improve my performance and increase my commission. But the pace of normal income growth felt laughably slow compared to the massive swings of gambling. My soul had already been corroded by that rapid flow of money. I no longer had the patience for the slow process of sowing and reaping. It was then that the devil extended another invitation. My brother-in-law, Mark, whose new project was going well, expanded the company's business and gave me more authority. I became responsible for liaising with some major clients, which included collecting payments. This meant that client payments would pass through my hands before being submitted to the company's finance department. At first, I fought desperately against the terrible thought. This was my brother-in-law's company, the lifeblood of my sister's family. Mark had treated me like his own son, giving me countless opportunities. If I touched this money, it wouldn't just be lying and foolishness, it would be betrayal and a crime. However, when a $70,000 client payment landed in the temporary account I was managing, my defenses crumbled. The pressure from the debt collectors, the delusion of winning it all back, and the classic gambler's logic of, I can control it, I'll just borrow it for a bit, win, and pay it back immediately once again consumed my entire being. I told myself, this isn't stealing, it's borrowing. I just need to win back 40K, no 50K, pay off the online loans, and return the rest to the company. No one will ever know. I re-downloaded Oasis of Luck. When I saw the familiar interface, I felt a wave of physical nausea, followed immediately by a sick excitement. I transferred the $70,000 in batches into my gambling account. This time, the casino showed me no mercy. My luck was abysmal, as if the entire universe was against me. Nearly every bet I placed was a loser. The $70,000 dwindled rapidly before my bloodshot eyes. I became hysterical, constantly reloading, constantly increasing the stakes. I threw all reason and fear to the wind, left with only one mechanical action bet. On the afternoon of the third day, just as I lost the last of the money, the company's finance director called me. In a confused tone, she asked why the $70,000 payment hadn't been booked yet, as the client system showed it had been successfully paid. I knew it was all over. I hung up the phone and sat frozen in my office chair. I didn't run. I didn't invent any more lies. I walked into Mark's office, whose door was open. Seeing my devastated look, he asked with concern, "Ike, what's wrong? You look terrible." I closed the door, and my legs gave out. I knelt on the floor. "Mark, I'm so sorry. I confessed everything, from the initial online loans, to losing my parents' money, to selling the car, and finally, to the $70,000 of company funds I had just embezzled. I poured out all my dirty secrets like dumping trash." Mark's expression shifted from concern to shock, to disbelief, and finally to a complex mixture of anger, disappointment, and heartbreak. He didn't yell. He just asked me in a voice I had never heard before, a voice exhausted to its limits, "Why?" I couldn't answer. That night, my sister Jessica found out. She rushed over, held me, and cried her heart out. She asked me why I didn't tell them sooner, why I had pushed myself to this point. Next came the showdown with Sarah. I confessed everything to her. She listened quietly, without crying or yelling. When I finished, she just looked at me, her eyes filled with a strangeness and distance I had never seen before. She said, "Ike, the person I knew is gone. I loved the guy who was full of plans for the future, who would be happy all day just from buying me a small gift, not this gambler that I don't even recognize. We're done." She took off the matching ring we had bought together, placed it on the table, then turned and left without looking back. Finally, I had to face my parents. When they learned the whole truth from my sister, not just a $50,000 investment loss, but a total gambling debt of nearly $500,000 and the crime of embezzlement, they completely broke down. My father, a man who had been strong his whole life, his hair turned white overnight. My mother could do nothing but cry, unable to speak a word. The look in their eyes was no longer disappointment or anger, but a cold, bone-chilling disgust, as if they were looking at a monster who had ruined their lives. My family was shattered. I used to think that phrase only existed in movies, but now it was my reality. For a week after my confession, I lived like a walking corpse. I was fired from the company. Mark ultimately chose not to report me to the police, telling everyone I had resigned for family reasons. He and my sister helped me sell off everything of value to fill the hole at the company and pay off some of the online loans. But the remaining massive debt still hung over me and over our entire family like a mountain. I locked myself in my room, away from the world. I replayed the events of the past 9 months over and over, like watching a horror film. From the first $5 commission to the final $500,000 ruin, at every step, I thought I was aware that I was in control. But in reality, I had been choked by the demon of greed all along, led step by step into the abyss. I started to think about death. I imagined that if I jumped from a tall building or ran into an oncoming truck, all the debt, shame, and pain would be gone, just like that. Maybe the life insurance could even pay back some of the money for my family. The thought circled in my mind like a sweet temptation. One night, I actually left the house and walked aimlessly towards a nearby sea-crossing bridge. I stood at the edge, looking down at the cold, dark water below. The thought of death had never been stronger. Just as I was about to climb over the railing, my phone rang. It was my sister, Jessica. I didn't answer, but she kept calling relentlessly. Finally, trembling, I answered the call. On the other end, there was no scolding, only her tearful voice. "Ike, where are you? Come home. Mom and Dad aren't eating. I'm so worried. No matter what happened, we are a family. You can't give up. If you give up, we'll truly have nothing left." Family. That word, like a key, unlocked a faint glimmer of light in my heart. I thought of my father's white hair, my mother's swollen red eyes, and my sister's exhausted face from running around for my sake. I realized that if I died, it wouldn't be a release. It would be my final, most cruel, and most selfish blow to them. I couldn't die. I had to live to atone for my sins. I am 26 years old. I have completely ruined my life. I have lost my love, my career, my reputation, and the trust of my family. I have nothing, and I am deeply in debt.